Hello everyone, welcome to some more Choice of Rebels. I can't help but think that this may be our last one, but I do not know, so we will see. Let's get started. Thank you again everybody for your comments, subscriptions, everything. I am recording this on a Monday morning, so I don't know if I've started a new game yet, but I hope you're enjoying whatever we've got going on the channel at that time. So, hello from the past. Alright everybody, let's get started. Last episode, we made the plan to send everybody out into the rim slowly but surely to get more people on our side. 35 bandits left last night, and we decided not to pursue them because we're a nice fella. And so now we are waiting for the phalangites to come and kill us all. When you're alone after dinner, Colt saunters up to you, bright-eyed and bleak. Coming to it at last, Captain Callan, the great hunt, the last battle. You offer a fragmentary nod. We'll leave in the morning to go have a look at these phalangites, and then begin the running away. The lean, your young fighter snorts, but his heart doesn't seem to be in it. There's an uneasiness in his face and a stance, a nervous energy you've never seen in him before. He opens and closes his mouth repeatedly, as if starting to speak and then thinking better of it. Worried about it, you ask at last? About a pack of overtrained, overarmed Alisters? Colt immediately shrugs, seeming if anything a bit relieved at this topic. What's the worst that can happen? They send you to Elysia. The sarcasm in your voice should be too light to offend any of your more devout followers who might be listening. He blurts out a laugh. Sure, I gave up my Elysian reward when I came to join your rebellion, Captain Callan, or when I killed my old master's son. He paused, his lips curved in a pained smile. From time to time, I find that sitting heavier on me gives me a greater appetite for earthly rewards. Judging by his fleeting wince, the strangeness in Colt's tone wasn't lost on him. You sigh and beckon him to sit down across from you. Best just to say outright whatever you're trying to tell me, Colt. Damn it all for a drachm. He looks around to confirm you're alone, his throat working anxiously. Captain, I'll be honest. If it all comes of being inspired by you, the thaumaturgy says things can't change. You've been showing us that they can, that it's not really in our nature to only serve and suffer and sacrifice ourselves. I see you look at the world, and when you see some bit of it you don't like, you don't just accept it. Even if someone says, oh, it's the nature of things, that doesn't stop you from trying to change it. You're making those changes happen, Captain. It's like there's a wall that everyone else stays away from, but you just walk up to it and through it, and suddenly we all realize that it wasn't ever really a wall at all. Now, any of us could die in these coming weeks. Colt pauses for a moment, bringing his hands up to nervously knead his face, and I can accept that. But if I die, I'd rather die as happy as I can, with as few regrets. And right now, there's one damn big regret that I don't think I can walk away from without at least trying. You take a deep breath. I think you know what you're talking about, Colt, and he raises his hands pleadingly. Wait, Callan, I know you usually, that as far as anyone knows, you've only ever gone looking among women for your other half. Maybe that seems natural to you, but he lets his arm fall again. I don't think it's much of a secret that I would do anything for you, Captain. Anything at all. My life's yours if you want it, in any way and for all time. Of all the things you've looked at and decided to change because the world would be a better place if it changed, how much of a change would this one need? And can you do it? Will you? Colt falls silent at last, his face taut with an expression that's not quite hopeful and not quite a smile. That's not something I can change, Colt. It's just my nature. It would take a lot of will to change something that big, Colt, and I'm sorry I just don't have it. So you do anything for me as long as I change who I am for you? How can you ask me that? I can't promise anything, but for you I'll try. I'm going to try to be true to myself here. I don't think I want to change my sexual orientation to make Colt happy, and I don't think it certainly wouldn't last. I would only do it just to make him more ready for this battle. But I don't think I want to do that, so I'm going to tell him that's not something I can change, Colt. It's just my nature. You've simply never found yourself drawn to men. Colt is no exception, however winsomely he may try to make his case. He closes his eyes and nods as your answer sinks in, and you don't want to try to change that nature. You give a helpless laugh. Thanos, Colt. I don't even know where I begin. Something I was born with, something that's always been part of me. How do you think that's going to change? Every helot here was born with a nature that was supposedly half animal and was told all their lives that they couldn't lead, couldn't fight. You helped us start looking for the place to change that, and once we started looking, we found it, Captain. We found it. That was a lie of the hegemony. It was never truly our nature. We changed what we thought, not the truth of things. It's not the same thing as the nature one recognizes in oneself. But well, I'm sorry for bringing up such folly, Captain. Colt manages an anguished smile, which disintegrates after only a couple seconds, and he stands to leave. He mutters, "Seems we're still going to be slaves to some things after all." I think, I don't know about that, Colt. It's not like I'm wanting to be attracted to you and I just won't let myself. I just am not. So I'm sorry about that, Colt. It's not slavery to follow one's true nature, I retort testily. It's all I can do not to strike him. Get out. So much a slave to your own desire that you don't give a damn for anyone else's. I let it go. He's disappointed. He doesn't know what he's saying. We'll let it go. He hurries away into the night. That was the shortest one we've seen so far. Alright, here we go. 6 days later, you crouch between boulders on Eggin's Pike, scanning the cloudless sky for Thurges. 2 of the enemy magi have flown over you in the past few days. To all appearances, they're still bearing messages between the multiple Phalangite forces in the windward, not yet joining the hunt themselves. Still, neither you nor your outlaws have managed to keep your eyes on the ground for long. When you uneasily convince yourself that your little warband is indeed alone, your eyes dart back to the valleys to the east. Eggin's Pike is the highest hill between Rim Square and the snow-capped Windish Range, overlooking vast tracts of wilderness and, barely visible some 60 miles off, the pastures, fields, and orchards of the rim. Today, as you hoped, it also provides a perfect vantage on the main enemy force. "Bleeding angels," you hear young Ern whisper nervously from behind you. You'd estimate there are 500 or more fighters marching towards you, and this is only one of the armies mustered against you, albeit the largest. They're almost 2 miles away. You could be missing scores of tiny figures amongst the trees, and most details are simply invisible. While your other outlaws fan out down the hill with Colt to intercept any enemy scouts, you and Ellery watch the steady advance of the enemy army. At this distance, the Phalangites are distinguished by their meticulous order more than their red armor. Their small columns hold together and keep a constant distance from each other, even while fording streams and cutting through thickets. They maintain a good pace and are consistently leading the advance. By contrast, the aristocrats of the rim frequently fall behind, charge on ahead, or scatter off to the sides. You imagine that by the end of the day, the Phalangites will be at least an hour ahead of most of them, preparing camp while the nobles catch up. Though nearly all are afoot, their retinues still bring something of the pomp of the hunt. Horns sounding, pennons flapping, hounds baying. The only house emblem you think you recognize is the crimson ram of the Caryatid, but counting the banners, there are some 20 houses pursuing you. The Alistairs are clearly trying to move like Phalangites, but they keep being broken up by the terrain and lag well behind. They start and jostle whenever they hear a yell from the noble parties, unlike the implacable infantry who march on undistracted. March on. There's also a motley cluster of a few dozen commoners bringing up the rear, led by 2 figures in bright ecclesiastical surplices. Squinting hard, you can just make out that everyone not in armor seems to be wearing a broad white sash, emblazoned, you imagine, with either the Omphalos or the Archon's golden kennet. Further back to the east, you can see 2 of the enemy's previous camps, great clearings where the Phalangites architectoi toppled trees and set up a paling of stakes around their tents. Crossing the previous night's camp, looking almost like ants from the distance, are 3 dozen or so mules with another large escort. By this evening, the weak supply train should have reached the main force. Your heart is drumming madly against your ribs. I don't know if we're going to survive this or not. Yet I feel no emotion as my mind races, trying to come up with our next move. But with excitement, not fear, we're going to win. This was not good for morale. Let's decide to feel no emotion as our mind races, trying to come up with our next move. They've got scent of us, Captain Oakfell, Ern points out tautly. They're following the course of our last mule train. Then it's time to start slowing them down. We're going to harry them from the woods, throw them off course. I've brought several scouting parties to lay false trails, divide their loyalties as best we can. I'll litter the wild with messages to sap their morale, move the van without leaving a trail. We're few enough to slip away without leaving any signs that the army can follow. We're not big enough to kill all these people. So let's move the band without leaving the trail, because that's the plan. We want to hide until we can get everybody gone. Your scouting party returns fleetly to camp, where you give the order. Your much reduced band follows Seals and Alira for 5 days up a stream and over stone, taking care to leave as little scent and sign as possible. Meanwhile, young Ern takes one of the mules and lays a strong false trail doubling back towards the rim. When he rejoins you at the end of the week, the boyish tracker is grinning triumphantly. Reckon they might just follow that mule all the way back to the stable she came from, Captain, but they'll not find us without the angel's own luck. For weeks, it seems as if he's right. Besides, Sturgis flying over the horizon every few days, you see no sign of the Archon's forces. The vastness of the windward can swallow up even a good-sized army without a trace. It hides your little band like a pebble in a landslide. Keeping to cover, you cautiously withdraw toward the best and safest vantage point you know, the campsite you were about to explore on the day that Alira reported the strangers heading up to the Windward Pass. After a long, weary day's ascent, you scramble over a final rise and see what your scouts refer to as a high crag campsite. It's a dimple in the mountain's broad shoulder, just below its shattered crown of crags and ravines. Tall dark evergreens blanket the area, threaded with the bright greens and whites of birch. The tiny stream of whose cascades you have to climb to reach the site turns out to be fed from a broad, flat pool with enough water to sustain your band for a month. The caves you can see there, Captain Breeden points up to the mountain's fissured crown. There are a lot more tunnels and cracks behind them. Some will take us to the ledges away up there. Others drop into streams going out the other side, into a thick forest. That's how we'd run if we need to leave in a hurry. Let's hope we won't need them, you say, casting an eye back to the vastness of the wild behind you. Come with me. I want to see what we can see from the top. It takes you half an hour to clamber up most of the way to the peak. You don't want to go beyond the last scrubby bushes and onto the exposed rock. From a high shelf you try to spy your outlaws below, but the caves and forests provide invisibility from the air. You'll also be able to see an enemy coming from many miles away. Might be best to hole up here for a while. Breeden offers a note of hope in her voice. Send scouts out to keep an eye on them. Set a few false campfires to keep the Magi busy far away. Meanwhile, we can be safe. Safe. It feels impossible. You're not ready to let yourself believe in it yet. In the evening, old Joanna Orchard brings you a bowl of pottage. Your father's not eating, Callan. There's a note of concern in the elder's voice, faint but more than you'd have thought to hear on the topic of your father. I cast a pained glance at her. Since you stopped speaking to me, there's not much I can do to help. I don't like either of these other two options. Joanna sighs and settles herself next to you. The two of you had a fight over that business with Aaron Weller. He raved about another child, his real son. He betrayed Aaron to the Allisters. I think I've heard about the other son thing. Joanna's face darkens. Used to be something he shouted at your mother about every week or two, till you were maybe 2 years old. Now it's been so long since I heard about it, I didn't know if he'd quenched those memories. Sorry, he hasn't, lad. Thanos, Joanna. You can hear the cracking straight in your own voice. What was he on about? Your mother. The old woman looks like she's weighing her words carefully. Well, both she and your father had been wed before. Your mother's first husband got himself harrowed before any children came along. Around the same time, your father's wife and son both died. When that barn she was working in caught on fire. Ugly, grievous thing, no question. He was half mad after that. Some of us warned your mother not to hurry into anything new, but she wasn't in the best mind herself. Some of the elders had complained about her not bearing a child in time to save her husband, and that had got under her skin. She knew your father hadn't the heart to love her. She took him as a safe mate anyway. The ache between your ribs is threatening to double you over. He loved them, then, his first wife and son. Well, angels know he loved that babe. Joanna stays silent for a long time, then scowls and exhales sharply through her nostrils. Other than that, the one time I reckon your father truly loved someone was when we were about your age. A beautiful young fellow named Jock from the Pelimantu estate. Never concerned about looking for a safe mate. Our Jock, open about everything he did. Her face looks unutterably weary. Got harrowed about as quick as you'd expect. Within a week or two, your father had stopped crying and arranged things with his first wife. Goodness. Tears are streaming down my face, and for several minutes I'm unable to speak. Damn and a coward, then I great. I begin to pace, head in my hands. Ah, zow, zow, damn for this, damn for them, what they've done to us. I'm upset with them. Just because we're cattle to them doesn't mean we treat each other the same, Joanna says after a moment, an edge returning to her voice. Your father's made his own choices, Callan, how he treated your mother, how he's treated you. Thanos, I know, but you feel like you're being gnawed out from within. Blow on blow, Joanna, they destroyed us so bloody long before the hero was from so many sides at once. You knew that already, the old woman gives a rattling sigh and stands, and now you know more of what made your father into the walking bile stain he is. Don't know if it'll make any difference, but you're old enough to be open about it. You sleep uneasily in the caves that night, haunted by the dreams of Thurges overhead. Around the second watch, you drowse awake to a nightmarishly pervasive noise and smell of vomit. You scramble blearily to your feet, taking in the contorted silhouettes around you. Then you run in a sudden panic to investigate the same sounds outside the cave. There's not been a single week when someone hasn't been ill with the flux, but tonight a good third of the outlaws in your camp are doubled over, barely able to move, save to retch out their guts. You stare in disbelief and growing horror. Then you glance at the bowl of pottage Joanna brought you. It sits untouched at your side. Your conversation stole your appetite, and you thought you might want it more if you woke in the night. You sniff the food, warily dab a bit on your tongue. There's an acrid note, but mostly, but not entirely disguised by the smokiness, some manner of poison. Turning to find Call at your arm, you wave the bowl in fury. Who cooked this? Whose turn was it on cooking duty tonight? Young Ern, Gavin from the Pelamatu estate, and Breeden. Oh boy. I gotta, this has been going on long enough, I gotta ask her. Breeden's face shines with sweat in the moonlight, but she doesn't look ill, just terrified. She's crouched over Ellery, who looks barely conscious and is covered in half-digested pottage. Angels, Callan. You stop a few feet from her, your knuckles white and around the haft of an axe. Give me your best explanation, Breeden. Give it fast. She blinks at you, a growing horror on her face. If I'd done it, Callan, you think I'd still be here? You think I'd stay with the band I just poisoned? I think you'd better give me a better explanation than that of what's just happened. I don't know, she cries. Nothing we did. Something epidemic. Some foul humor in the caves, or something finding its way into the pot. Finding its way? Radmar's nostrils are flared wide. Captain, you're not going to credit this, are you? It's some mistake, Callan, or worse, it's something trying to make you think we poisoned you all. Breeden steps away from Ellery, trembling in every limb, but clearly trying to keep panic out of her voice. It wasn't me. I'm sure it wasn't Gavitt or Ern. What about those who handed it out? Only half of the band took ill. Joanna Orchard pushes past you, eyes ablaze. Girl, she snarls, are you daring to call me a traitor? I don't believe Breeden's excuses. I grit my teeth and turn to her, weapon in hand. It's an almost impossibly bad coincidence. I order Breeden tied up until we can question her further. I don't know what to believe, and I'm not going to see anyone killed until I know more. I trust Breeden. I do trust her. But I also don't know what to believe. Let her be. You cut off the rising chorus of protest with a sharp. We'll have more questions for her later. For now, we've lives to save in the band if we still can. Damn you, Captain, one of the outlaws snarls back at you. There's no chance this was anything other than treachery. Deal with it now, or by all angels, we will. When you hesitate, something seems to snap in the ground of group of bandits. Breeden sees their intent and whirls to run, but she can't outpace the knives that fly at her back. She topples forward with a scream. Oh, boy. Uh-oh. This is rough. I stare in horror, knowing there's nothing that I can do to save her. There are no more screams, so within seconds your followers have walked away from Breeden's inert form. It's done, Captain Callan, Radmar growls. Now there are lives to save if we can, before the Phalangites catch us gutless. It takes a few minutes to confirm that 11 of your outlaws are incapacitated. You all do your best to heal them, but with Tirrett fading in and out of consciousness and barely able to talk you through the contents of his herbiary, there's little you can do. There's one last thing to attend to before you return to sleep, choosing a new deputy. This looks like a bad idea that I just turned him down. She's been doing a good job. Oh boy. I guess Ellery, she has a pretty good following. Her voice is feeble, but she manages to rasp. You'll need someone who can stand for you if the Thirters find us tomorrow, Captain. Not me. Then I'll choose Colt. Aye, Captain, Colt says at once. You know you can count on me. You can't sleep, however exhausted you feel, however far away you know the enemy to be. Some part of you is on alert and can't be calmed. More than once, when you're just on the verge of sleep, you hear or imagine a distant howl. Each time you lie utterly still, trying not to tremble or breathe as you strain your ears for confirmation. Each time the night is silent for another hour or so. With a hint of dawn brightens the eastern sky, you finally give up. Rise from your bedroll and take the steep path toward the top of the mountain. Alira is with your watch at the first shelf, dark circles under her eyes. So I'm not the only one, Captain. She pauses, looking you over. How are you taking her death? I still don't know if it was right, because I don't have an idea. Sometimes you can't know, but you have to act anyway. Alira turns, stares down into the forest again. There's no Phalangites to see down there. If they're anywhere near us, they'd have to sneak up without light, and we've had no signals from the scouts posted above us. Perhaps you really have lost them, and they're turning back to the rim, but you can't quite bring yourself to believe it. You hear howls in the night. You keep your voice low enough so only that she can hear. Not sure. Could have been. Alira moistens her lips. A wolf, maybe. A good ways off. Or something else they've set to find us. You aren't ready to use the word plektoi where anyone else can hear it. Turning, you steer higher up the crag. Let's get a better vantage and check with the upper scouts. Alright folks, so this was not the last video. Who knows? Maybe we got a lot more to go. I don't know. But I've enjoyed it so far. I'm sorry that Breeden is dead. I did not see that one coming. Very big surprise. And I'm kind of sad because I trusted her. I don't know what the deal was. Hopefully she was a bad girl and we did the right thing. But we will see you in the next video. Please be sure to comment something you might like to see me play, and I will see you in the next video. I love you very much. Bye bye.